This week on Quality Digest Live, helping manufacturers better manage hazardous substances.
Plus, we examine the use and misuse of ISO standards. That and more when we come back.
This episode of Quality Digest Live is brought to you by TÜV SÜD Sign up for TÜV SÜD free webinar at www.tuvsudamerica.com/incorporating OHSAS 18001 to learn about OSAS 18001.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for June 15th, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. Okay, let's kick it off this week, as we normally do, with a couple of news lines that caught our eyes, respectively. First up, a recently released book from Productivity Press harkens back to a little-known and mostly forgotten quality guru with the curious name of W. Edwards Deming.
Deming.
A few of you may remember Deming. I think we've actually talked about him once or twice on the show.
Once or twice?
Maybe, I think so. Out of the Present Crisis, Rediscovering Improvement in the New Economy is written by consultant and trader Terence T. Burton. Now, all kidding aside, and may the Demingites not strike me down, Burton's book, with its direct reference, Deming's best-known work, certainly demonstrates a sense of ambition. But Burton also backs it up with an interesting take on the current state of quality in industry today. Essentially, what he's saying is that it's no longer enough to continually improve. Now you have to continually improve the way you continually improve. Interesting. Burton calls this improvement excellence because process improvement is itself a process that often needs improving. This is a perspective, I think, that is sorely lacking and desperately needed in industry today. Now, Burton pulls no punches in delivering a roadmap to help anyone from CEOs down to technicians understand how to implement and maintain true performance excellence in their organizations. He forces readers to ask the hard questions about why their companies aren't improving faster, or why perhaps they're not improving at all, or why, Deming forbid, they're actually falling behind. So for more information on the book, you can just click on the story link below the player here. That story link in turn has a link to Productivity Press where you can find out more about the book, so check it out.
There you go. Well, here was a story that caught my eye this week, mostly because I'm always interested in how computer simulations are getting more accuracy in solving real-world design issues. This story came from ANSYS. ANSYS is a software company that develops mostly math software. And the story talks about how ANSYS software was used to help competitive swimmers. Speedo, you're all familiar with them, used ANSYS software to streamline the revolutionary Fastskin racing system, which has been designed using engineering simulation software developed by ANSYS. When worn together as a complete system, a Fastskin suit and goggle can, get this, reduce full body passive drag by up to 16%. Wow. Reduce full body drag by 17%, improve oxygen economy by up to 11%, which enables swimmers to swim longer, better breath, and reduce active body drag by up to 5.2%. So it's pretty amazing what they can do just through simulation software. So in engineering, the three components into a system, Speedo used data from more than 1,200 separate simulations conducted with ANSYS multiphysics software by replicating the dynamic pressures of a competitive swimming suit in a virtual design environment. These simulations then helped engineers to minimize the effects of turbulence and drag and to mitigate the impact force generated by a dive, maximize the structural strength of goggles during swimming. This is all stuff that's even just, as they'll tell you, even just minor improvements in drag and performance. All it takes is a split second, and that's the difference between winning or losing a race, right? Wow. Just ask Michael Phelps. Yeah, right. So following the design work, Speedo conducted a number of pool tests in the new racing system using professional athletes, including Natalie Coughlin, Ryan Locke, and Michael Phelps of the United States. So I do have a picture here, actually, of what their suit looked like, just in case anybody's interested. We scroll down here. I think there it is in the middle of your screen there. So that's an example of kind of what the new Speedo design looks like, and you can see that's very very fluid, very
aerodynamic.
aerodynamic. Now, I will tell you, and I sent a tweet to ANSYS about this. I've been to Europe, to some of the beaches on Europe, and in fact, in some of the United States here, and I've seen a lot of people in Speedos, and I can tell you, sometimes no amount of math is going to streamline a Speedo.
A person in a Speedo.
A person in a Speedo.
Some of the bodies. Well,
yes.
but these are professional athletes.
Well,
Natalie Colligan
I will
in
tell you
particular.
that is definitely true.
Well, so now the question though I don't know if it's answered in this article, is this technology approved for like Olympic competitions? Do we know that? I mean,
you know, that's a good question. My understanding is, I think anytime you make a change to the design of suits, you know, helmets. Remember, for bike racing, there was this big thing about whether you could have the swept back helmet.
Yep.
I think it probably all has to be approved by the Olympics, by the Olympic
committee.
By the Olympic committee. I believe so. Yeah,
because those are really significant percentage increases. That would give the athletes who use this technology.
Huge benefits. Yep.
Interesting. Great stuff. Cool. Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Dirk. Okay, we're going to turn now to the feature articles that we covered in QDD this week, and we're going to start with one called "Can Products in Your Home Be Dangerous?" Absolutely. And that's the compelling title of a piece written by Stan Salot, which appeared in Tuesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Now, for those of you who don't know Stan, he has a lengthy background in the electronic components industry with a particular focus on hazardous substance process management, or HSPM.
Right.
In fact, Stan wrote the prevailing international specification in the field, QC 080,000 IECQ HSPM. Quite a mouthful there. Hazardous substances, in case you don't know, such as mercury, cadmium, hexavalent chromium, and others, are found in electronic components, toys, musical greeting cards, earrings, light bulbs, and many other very common consumer products. So this is a big issue here.
Right, we covered it quite a bit a few years ago, even some couple of videos on the topic.
Some video work too, we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, Stan's latest endeavor, the Hazardous Substance Free, or HSF mark, offers consumers transparency into the materials that compose the products that they purchase and use every day. Of course, this is a major international endeavor, as befits a system that needs to penetrate the global supply chain, and to explore the implications of the HSF mark and how it may affect manufacturers across the world. We're now joined via Skype by Stan Salot. Hello, Stan.
Hey, Stan.
Hello, Mike and Dirk. Pleasure to join you today.
How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
Good.
So you're up in Oregon, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Just outside of Eugene.
All right.
Beautiful part of the country. Well,
absolutely.
Now, Stan, I gave the viewers a very quick background on HSPM and HSF a moment ago. Can you give us the very latest on the HSF mark and how companies are currently employing it in their manufacturing processes?
Certainly can, Mike. It's a really good question. The HSF mark itself is something that is new, although we've been working on it now for a couple of years. It is coming out new. We have, as a basis, there's a requirement for a manufacturer to be certified by facility. And we've accomplished that with about almost 3,500 certified facilities around the world. So our next endeavor is to actually have manufacturers start putting the logo, the mark, on their packaging. And unfortunately, I can't tell you who they are, but we have a couple of Fortune 50 companies producing products that will be the founders, if you will, of the HSF Mark Alliance of Manufacturers that are actually marking their products. And you'll see those coming up in your favorite retail outlets here soon.
So that would be similar. That'd be similar to like the Energy Star mark or that type of things that we see sometimes on products. I mean, the same idea, right?
Yes, it certainly is. And in fact, what the entire process is the manufacturer lists all of their certifications, all of their qualifications on the website. And the way the system works is whether you use your computer or you use a smartphone, you simply search on the computer for the product you want, and then you can look at all the details relevant to that product related to hazardous substances, including all their certifications, which does include the Energy Star, Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval, Better Business Bureau, We're also adding, as a result of meetings that we had this past Friday in France, we're going to be adding the recycle program to it, so that a buyer of a product will know immediately where they can take their product when they're ready to recycle it or return it to someplace other than their use.
And Stan, you mentioned that the adapters of this, the manufacturers, are many large organizations, Fortune 50 companies. Of course, these manufacturers have humongous, lengthy global supply chains. So talk a little bit about how the supply chain figures into this. In other words, the manufacturer, as I understand it, is ultimately the one responsible for any of these products that are found in their products, but they push it down to their suppliers as well. Is that correct?
That is very correct, Mike. And what I can share with you, because it is public record, companies like ASUS Technology, ASUS Computers, as you might know, another one called Haier Corporation, #1 company in white goods in China, Whirlpool here in the U.S., Philips, LG. These are all some of the larger companies that currently use the HSPM certification program. And through that, they push that down through their supply chain. One other one I'll mention that I don't want to forget is Foxconn, the folks that make the iPhones. These folks are all certified under the IECQ HSPM, which is the QC 80,000, the mouthful, as you mentioned earlier. And they have found this to be a tremendous approach to managing hazardous substances that might get into their products through supply chain management.
Now, Asia really, as we know, is an early adapter of HSPM, and as a matter of fact, we referenced this a little earlier in the show. Dirk was out a couple of years back at Taitronics in Taiwan and interviewed many leaders in the space to learn about what was going on here. So first of all, is Asia still, at this point in time, ahead of the rest of the world in this space? And if so, why?
The answer to that one is absolutely yes, they're the leaders. And the reason that we can cite that and know this is that's where the real supply chain is. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 85% of the components used worldwide come out of the Asia-Pacific region. And everything, as we have tried to do, everything starts at the lowest level. We call it supply chain management. We also call it chain of custody. Everything that's built today, if you start at the beginning, and this drives directly to quality, if you get it right to begin with, then you get it right all the way through. And by doing that, Asia becomes the predominant users of the HSF mark. The producers, I'm sorry, the HSPM, get it right here, the HSPM certification, which then allows them to use the HSF mark.
I'm sorry, Dirk, let me just jump on that for a minute, because it's interesting, Stan, you mentioned that, because it is a lot of letters, there is a lot of acronyms involved in this, but the one that really, I think, to me, that, as I understood this, really is the most important is the P in HSPM, because it's a process. This is not about dealing with these hazardous substances after the fact. You want to establish a process upstream to get rid of them before they get into the components. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, and that's a very good point, Mike. The reality is that, and this discussion could go on for hours, but the HSPM program, Process Management of Hazardous Substances, actually started back in 2004 and 5, when it became obvious that testing hazardous substances out of products just wasn't working. And in fact, even today, it still is a problem. We have reports that Europe still sees in the neighborhood of 20 to 30% failure particularly for lead and cadmium, because the manufacturers are still trying to accomplish that with testing. So when we introduced the Hazardous Substance Process Management certification, it was focused totally on process management. And I heard you mentioning Deming a bit ago, Deming and others, Crosby, the gurus of the past in quality would certainly support what we're doing, because it is really addressing the process.
Yeah, we've come to know very well in our industry, in the quality industry, that the statement that you can't test quality into the, you can't expect quality into the product. You need to, again, have that further upstream and understand in the design phase even that you're going to avoid bad quality, or you're going to avoid having these substances in your components. Definitely.
Stan, most of our audience is, quality professionals, yep. And some might even look at HSPM or HSF as just part of the alphabet soup, and there's plenty of alphabet soup of standards and specifications that, we deal with every day at work. However, we're all consumers as well. So as consumers, what role can we play in affecting change as it relates to hazardous substances?
Dirk, that's what we're really striving to do today, is address that very question. The reality is that any product that you buy today, anywhere in the world, where there's a potential for the hazardous substance, whether it's lead or mercury or cadmium or anything else, we can simply look at it and say, gee, that can't affect us. I'm an adult, I'm this, I'm that. It's, how's it getting into my body? Well, what I'd encourage everybody to realize is every time you touch something and then pick up something to eat, like a cookie or a sandwich, unless you put gloves on or use a knife and fork and don't touch the food that you're eating, you have the potential of transferring whatever substance might come off on your fingers into your body. And an important piece here is to remember that while it might not affect you as a person, it could affect your offspring, or in fact their offspring. So
instead, let me just jump in real quick, because we're running out of time here. One thing we didn't say up front is these chemicals that we mentioned up at the top of this piece, these are actually found in everyday, basically electronic devices, or can be found, I should say, in things like toys. Yeah. So it's not like it's obscure things that we're picking up. We're talking about substances that you can get from handling an electronic device, an electronic toy.
Yeah, a card, a musical card.
A musical card, for instance. If you take the musical card apart, it's got a device in there. And that's what we're talking about, is that these really are things that could be found in consumer products today, and that's really what the HSF mark is all about, right? Is making sure that you're telling people in these everyday consumer products you're buying that if it has the HSF mark, it does not contain any of these nasty things.
That's right. The mark is intended to be an easy way for consumers to know that what they're buying has been processed properly. We have put in place a testing process, so we're randomly going out and buying products off the shelf and having them tested in a non-profit, non-government process control here. So,
okay. And where can we go to learn more about this?
hsf.us, www.hsf.us. And our real desire is consumers start demanding, insisting that retailers embrace and use the HSF mark or sell HSF mark products. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Well, thanks, Stan.
Thanks, Stan. Yeah, there's more information again in the article. You can find that article right below the player page here, and click over to the Twitter page and Facebook, and a bunch of good links, and you can find out more. Stan, thank you so much for joining us today. Great information. We're going to circle back with you again here in the coming weeks and months and check in again and talk more about these issues.
Thank you both very much.
Okay, thanks, Stan.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, Stan.
Bye now.
We've covered this a lot. I mean, this has been something that we've covered in Quality Digest for several years now, and we've really been actively interested in it. So we are going to continue to cover it and bring it to our audience, because it's important. It's not just a quality issue; it is a consumer issue for all of us as people.
Absolutely,
we need to be aware of it. So.
Another topic we cover a lot about is ISO standards, quality management system standards in particular. So one of our most popular articles this week is one from Umberto Tunisi. He is a consultant, I believe, in Italy.
Northern Italy. I believe,
ISO 9000 consultant and auditor. And in this article, what do we have here? Where have all the certifications gone? He's talking about how in Europe, at least, the growth in ISO 9001 certificates is dwindling. The ISO survey of registered companies that ISO issues each year substantiates that. In Tunisi's opinion, companies seem to be favoring more specific standards or specifications such as ISO TS 16949, ISO 14001, AS 9100, kind of industry-specific or topic-specific standards in place of the more general ISO 9001, and he cites several reasons for this. Let me put up a slide here. At least basically 3 reasons that this might be happening. I say row at the top here, ignore that. A customer that requires its suppliers to be certified to a specific standard, or they won't even get a request for a quote. Regional and governmental funding, for example, the coastal areas in Europe, where there are money-making tourist resorts, or the Tuscany region in Italy, which holds the majority, get that, the majority of SA 8000 certificates worldwide, and tax reduction schemes, for example, certification to BS OHSAS 18001, which means that lower premiums for workers' insurance. So these are kind of some of the drivers while people are looking at other standards other than ISO 9001. They're being driven to it. And so what he says is this is really kind of unfortunate because these industry-specific standards are, he calls them appetizers. He says people are missing the main course, which should have been ISO 9001. He blames changes to the standards as well as consultants and registrars themselves for things which he doesn't believe is really called for by the standards. So sometimes consultants and registrars are requiring people to jump through hoops, which he believes aren't even really called for, aren't really necessary, and this is kind of turning people off as well. They're just looking at these, they begin to look at ISO 9001 as just this hoop they need to jump through in order to get more business.
Yeah, and that's been the old saw we've heard many, many times in the past, is that you're not embracing the reason for the certification is just to put that certificate on the wall and show it as a marketing tool or sales tool. There's something in the water this week because we had a lot of conversations around this topic. Bill Levinson had a really interesting article as well about ISO 9001.
He did.
And actually Umberto commented on Bill's article.
Well, let's fill people. Levinson article had to do with.
Well, it was the
noticeable by its absence.
Conspicuous by its absence. I actually have it right here. ISO 9001 conspicuous by its absence. You know quality standard is effective when it's invisible. In other words,
and so in Levinson, what Levinson does is points out cases where lack of quality is very visible, and he points to airlines, he points to healthcare, he points to certain other things that don't employ ISO 9001, and you have quality issues
because of it.
Because of it. Right.
And the sector specifics don't really address them as well. It does in some ways, but it doesn't address them as well as what Umberto calls the main course of ISO 9001. And Umberto wrote an interesting comment on that.
Right. We have a slide here. Certification, same old song. Umberto writes, please give Levinson my congratulations and complete agreement for his column. Yet, we are all still singing the same old songs, even though the dancers want something different. Umberto's got away with words. Even though the dancers want something different, more exciting, some fresh air. There's no doubt we need stability and predictability, but we also need that something which makes us say, let's look at it a little closer. I realize I'm singing my same old song, but do we really want to improve quality by increasing its shock value?
Good point.
That's kind of what I'm taking away. I think what Umberto's saying in his letter to Levinson is that we shouldn't need the shock value. We shouldn't need terminal delays on the runway. We shouldn't need the kind of hospital-borne infections and deaths that we get in medical care. We shouldn't need these things to wake us up to the need for quality. It should be something that we're doing as a regular course. It should be something as boring as ISO 9001 properly implemented.
Yeah, the right tool. And we had an article from Ryan Day, and again, it was in the water this week or something, in the air. Our own Ryan Day, also talked about using the right tool for the right job. And so there's a lot that goes into this idea that ISO is a complicated thing, and there's a lot of different ways you can approach it, but many people are neglecting the original root of this, which is the quality management system standard of ISO 9001, which certainly we promote and we support, that people should at least consider it as an option to certify it.
He does say he is a little critical, and several people have been. He is a little critical also of the standard. Itself. He does, I believe he does recognize in the article that the current standard is a much greater improvement than the original standard, because it does take a process approach.
That was a big change.
That was a huge change. And most people say that was the best thing to happen to ISO 9001, is really to get out of the prescriptive stuff.
Less prescriptive,
and look at the process as a whole. But it has to be embraced, and you have to see the value in it.
Yeah, but it's also an ongoing thing. We understand from talking to a lot of our contributors that the standard writing and standard revision process is a it's a very in-depth process, and these people are very good at what they do. And these standards do get refined over the period of time. So, continue to keep your eye on it, because it's going to get better, and it's going to, and certainly comments are welcome too, right? I mean, ISO wants comments. Everybody wants to know how users are using these tools, these standards. So you need to be communicating with them and with us as well, and write us and let us know what you think of this.
By the way, one of our authors, if you ever want to look her up on our website, is Denise Robitaille, who is actually a member, I believe she's still a member of the TAG, that's the technical group that reports to ISO and is part of the team that actually revises the standards and so forth. So if you ever want to actually contact somebody about your thoughts about what ISO should or shouldn't be doing, just look up Denise Robitaille. I'm sure she loved I just did that. So, but hey, that's part of her job. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Great story. Thanks, Derek.
Tech Corner today.
We have a Tech Corner today, and this is a good one from Brunson. And Brunson sent this to us, and it is an interesting tool. Some technology has been around for a little while, but an interesting application of it.
Right. This is one of those things. This is from Brunson Instrument Company. And what I have in front of me right now, what you see on the desk right here, let me lower my screen a little bit. What you see on the desk right here is the Brunson Instrument 2022 alignment scope, also outfitted with an 8420 camera kit. Now, get my coffee cup out of the way here. This part of the scope been around forever. There have probably been alignment scopes for as long as there's been the Industrial Revolution. Basically, an old, reliable tool used for aligning equipment, aligning jigs. Think of it, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of similar to a surveyor's transit, where you look through the scope through a set of crosshairs or other type of reticules to a target, and you use that to align something that's in front of you. It could be to align a bore, it could be to align a very long shaft, it could be to align two pieces of equipment. It is exactly what it says, that it is an optical alignment tool, very precise. Now, these tools have been around forever. In fact, I talked to Brunson. This particular instrument has probably been around at Brunson since Brunson's son was a baby. I mean, it's been around before they were in the cave, 50, 60 years. It's been around there for a long time. Now, there are a couple issues with your standard optical alignment scope, and that is they are an optical device. They've got an eyepiece on the end. So there's a couple of issues. Number one, there is always the issue of parallax. Whenever you're looking through an eyepiece, if you don't have your eye directly centered over the eyepiece, then you're not really seeing the crosshairs on the target exactly accurate. Now, people can be trained to do this properly. I mean, that's not a big deal, but it is an issue. It is a training issue. You also have the thing where, unlike a surveyor's transit, which sits out in the open, it's up on a nice tripod, the eyepiece is usually at eye level, these can be anywhere. You may have to do your alignment on the floor. You may have to do your alignment on a scaffold. You may have to do your alignment backed into some sort of corner, in which case getting your head behind the eyepiece, even if you have a right angle eyepiece, sometimes you have to be a contortionist, and that's just the way it works. I mean, that is the problem with an optical device. You've got to get your head behind the device. That's the second problem. The third problem is that for most alignment issues, or for many alignment tasks, you need two people. You need one person on the scope, and you need another person at the target or the thing that you're trying to move around and align. So you've got 2 people. So Brunson solution, very simple. Put a CCD camera over the eyepiece. Doesn't get any simpler than that. Off-the-shelf device. They've built obviously an adapter to adapt to their scope. This is one of those just elegant solutions that you get when somebody says, "Look, geez, why don't we just put a camera on it?" I'm sure that's what happened. But look at what you get. So we've got a CCD camera here. It's connected to my laptop. If we look at my laptop screen here, you can see that I am simply seeing now that image on my laptop. Now this laptop now can be anywhere. It's just on a big old long USB cable. Now I can sit comfortably. I can look at this. If I want to make adjustments, you can see I'm moving it up and down with one knob here. I can move it left and right with the other. Okay, so it's very easy for me to see what's going on. I've got a focus knob. I don't have to worry about getting my head behind this device. Very simple to use. But, so we've taken care of 2 of the problems, ergonomics and parallax error. We still have the issue of how do you deal with 2 people needing to do a job? Well, what's beautiful is once you have this on a computer, you can do all sorts of things. So we happen to have a Kindle Fire here. Loaded on the Kindle Fire and on the laptop is a little piece of software that allows us to remotely control the computer. You've probably seen these. A lot of people use these. So now what I have, if we can go to the, here we go, I'll hold this up, try not to get too much reflection in it. Okay, so now you see what I'm holding up. This is a Kindle Fire. And you can see that now I can go remote with my screen. So what that means is these are connected via a wireless network. So what I can have is I can have my camera connected to my laptop back at the scope, and I can go way the heck down to wherever I need to work with my little Kindle Fire or iPad or smartphone. This application runs on a number of devices. Now I am my second person because I can actually see what's going on at the scope. At the same time, I'm making adjustments with the scale or with the alignment, whatever I'm trying to do. I've got it right here with me. So again, just a very elegant in its simplicity type of solution. This again is from Brunson Instrument, and if you're interested in that, that is the 8420 camera kit. Right now, the camera kit is set up for their optical alignment tools. They are looking at rolling it out for some of their other optical devices as well. So keep your eyes on that. If you have these tools, Brunson was telling me that they know some people have these tools kind of stuck away in a cabinet. This actually kind of breathes new life into them because it gives them some capabilities they didn't have before. So
using technology of today.
Using simple technology.
Great job. All right, thanks, Dirk. Hey, thanks, Dirk. Thank you, Brunson, for sending that to us. And again, Dirk, right below the player page right here, of course, there's a link out to
that device.
The product page on Brunson's website. So check that out if you're interested in finding out more about this product. So thank you. And of course, always send us your ideas for Tech Corners, products you're using that you are interested in having us maybe demo here, and we'll show them to the audience.
Right.
Great, thanks. Okay, well, that's the show for the week. But before we close, I'd like to thank our sponsor, TÜV Südamerika. Learn more about how you can protect your employees, the environment, and your bottom line with OSIS 18001 certification. Sign up for TÜV Südamerika's free webinar at www.tuvamerica.com/incorporating OSIS 18001. Or just click on the banner ad just below the player, or just to the right over here if you're watching on demand later.
That's right, and an interesting story coming up next week. Predictive analysis software has been around several years. Is being used now by a police department to, get this, any of you see Minority Report?
Right.
The movie? Kind of being used in that way. It's being used to predict what kind of crime statistics or what kind of crimes might be on the rise or coming down the pike in that particular municipality. Very interesting application for predictive analysis software.
And we're having that in Quality Digest Daily next week?
Next week, exactly.
So check that out. We also have a story next week from our own Taryn March. Taryn March hates holograms. Why does Taryn March hate holograms?
I don't know.
Well, we're going to find out because she's got an interesting article on holograms as they're being used in airports too.
Yeah, I think if she comes across one in an airport, I think there's
problems. There's going to be a brawl.
Homeland Security is going to be there.
So check that out. I believe that's Monday in Quality Digest Daily
is
Taryn's article on holograms. Oh, and one other thing. We want your feedback, don't we?
We've been at this for a year now.
We've been at this for a year. We've done now close to 60 shows, 60 almost, Quality Digest Dailies. Amazing. Thank you all for watching. But we want your feedback. We want to know what we're doing that you like, what we're doing that you don't. Could there be anything they don't like?
Oh, I'm sure there are.
If there's anything you don't like, write us, qdl@qualitydigest.com. We really do want to know what you think of the show because we want to improve it and we want to bring you what you want in the content.
And comment on anything. It can be the length, it could be the content, it could be us, what we're wearing. I don't care. We just really want to know how we can make the show better and give you the type of news and information that is useful to you.
So let us know. Thanks for that.
That's right. Okay, well, that ends our show for today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next Friday.
That's right. Have a great weekend.
So long.
Bye.
Thank you.